from Colleen Hanabusa, who has been with us for a large part of the day. This testimony. Am I not lucky to be able to become so familiar with so many of these beautiful dreamers? We want to send these people back. This talent, this rich talent, this achievement, this determination, this faith in the future, this patriotism for America. I don't think so. We have to make it happen. I have confidence. Hi, my name is Cecilia Kavusi. I'm a DACA recipient. Excuse me. My parents came to the United States of America seeking the American dream. I and my siblings came here when we were young. I was 4 when my mother and I came to the US of A. It was not until I was a senior in high school that I found out I had no legal status in this country of opportunities. Today, I humbly ask that you issue legal resident status to those who have benefited from President Obama's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. President John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Over 700,000 people have benefited from this program. This program had opened the doors for not only myself, but other undocumented children. Thanks to DACA, they obtained education, employment, other leadership roles with their community, within their community, so that they can do something for our country. President-elect Trump said he will end this program or allow his program to expire. By doing so, he's slamming the door in the face of DACA recipients who will undoubtedly damage communities and the economy across the country, perhaps even across the world. DACA recipients feel a sense of danger, which is why I write this letter today. People that have benefited from DACA have no other objective in mind than to become positive members of the U.S. community. Those with severe criminal backgrounds did not and do not qualify for DACA. With this in mind, I respectfully ask, and this is a letter from Cecilia to Congresswoman Colleen Hanabusa. With this in mind, I respectfully ask that you forgive DACA recipients and urge you to pass legislation that allows DACA recipients to become U.S. residents and protect this information they have turned to the Department of Homeland Security in order to return peace of mind to those families immediately. It is only with your help that we continue working for a better America. It's interesting as we read these letters, my colleagues, don't you agree, how many families hesitated to tell their children about their status. I can understand why. They would not want to frighten them. But nonetheless, when they do find out, they're very shocked by it. We shouldn't have that kind of fear and shock in our country, especially for our children. And so while these parents took great risk, had great courage and determination to protect their children, unfortunately, we didn't have comprehensive immigration reform soon enough to have avoided some of these sad situations. Congresswoman Velasquez has another testimony from a dreamer. Yaksiri Tovar is a young New Yorker and, yes, an American who faces an uncertain future. Yaksiri Tovar came to the United States from Mexico at age 2. She's an American in every way except on paper. Last year, of a lot of hard work, Yaksiri graduated from City College in New York. She achieved this goal while holding down a job at the same time she completed her studies. Because she's undocumented, Yaksiri was not able to secure financial aid. Now Yaksiri is giving back by working with a community group that stands up for and empowers some of the most vulnerable neighbors, like the other immigrants and low-income workers. Yaksiri is exactly the type of person we want contributing to our nation. Yet Congress is now contemplating turning its back on young dreamers like Yaksiri. This is shameful for young patriotic people like Yaksiri and for hundreds of thousands of young Americans. Yes, Americans. We need to pass a DREAM Act now. I appreciate this statement from Yaksiri Tovar, but I hope that we can be more optimistic about the prospect of not turning our back, but on embracing our dreamers by having a discussion, a debate on the floor of the House and passing legislation. Hope the Speaker would give us in this House of Representatives the dignity that we deserve to be able to discuss matters of concern to our constituents on the floor of this House and have the House of Representatives work its will in order to address this issue. The Senate has gotten that privilege, not privilege, it's really a given by the leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, in consultation with a bipartisan group of members, We have bipartisan legislation, as has been said over and over. What we do should be bipartisan, should be done openly, and which should unify people. That should be a rule of thumb for everything we do, especially necessary to do this soon. Why? We ask the question, why is the House cut out of this discussion? Why? We need that answer from the Speaker of the House. Why are we not given our constitutional opportunity to discuss this important issue? Thank you. Okay. Are we a lot of members here? Okay. Just a few more from members. Okay. I just have, okay, I think we did all these. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I could stay here for the full 40 hours and do this, but I know that we have a vote to take and the rest. So let us just conclude with Carlos Aguilar, same name as our co-sponsor of the Hurd-Aguilar bill, no relation. Carlos migrated to the United States from Mexico at the age of 14 and currently lives in Kerrville, Texas. After graduating from high school, he received his BA in psychology, and Carlos has also earned an MS in sociology at the University of Texas at San Antonio. Currently, he's attended Harvard Graduate School of Education, where he's pursuing a doctoral degree. Aware of these obstacles along undocumented students' road, Carlos has devoted his academic and professional endeavors to issues relating to unauthorized migration, as well as providing support and guidance for this vulnerable population. In addition to academic attention to these issues, Carlos has remained active in the immigrant community as the Immigrant Youth Leadership Coordinator for UTSA, that's University of Texas, San Antonio, as an associate legal assistant in an immigrant law firm. He has many, many accomplishments. Moreover, together with other undocumented DACA students, Carlos coordinated efforts at University of Texas, San Antonio, mobilizing and defending their rights as undocumented and DACA students through the creation of the Immigrant Youth Leadership. They advocated and worked to improve the educational opportunity for the population. Okay, I'm just going to just one more from California. I have to end on California. Kimberly came to the United States from Mexico and currently resides in Los Angeles, Madam Ranking Member. She's the only person in her family without papers, and in spite of the challenges risen to the occasion as an advocate for Dreamers, she implemented a resolution supporting Dreamers at her local community college. She involved in the advocacy community in Victorville and spent time as an intern in Congressman Cook's office, bipartisan. She hopes to become a lawyer one day, and right now, she hopes to become a lawyer one day. Let me just, we've been joined by Congresswoman Schakowsky. Thank you for being with us. Congresswoman Kathy Castor, I acknowledged you earlier. You were here before and back in that. Congresswoman Carol Shea Porter, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, Congressman Steve Cohen is with us, Congressman John Delaney. I'm trying to, just the ones I hadn't acknowledged before, Congressman Catherine Clark, Congressman Julia Brownley, Jackie Spear I acknowledged, Congresswoman Susan Del Bene, Congressman Bobby Scott, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Congressman Brad Sherman. I read your testimony earlier, as I did yours, Alma. Congressman David Cicilline, Congressman Yvette Clark. I read your testimony earlier as well. All the others I think I've acknowledged. Oh, yes. Hank Johnson from Georgia, Congressman Hank Johnson. I think we have acknowledged all of the members who are here. Gwen Moore I acknowledged earlier. You were sitting over here. You were sitting next to, I'll tell you who you were sitting next to. You were sitting next to Nikki Songas at the time. But anyway, let's acknowledge you again and thank you. My colleagues, for the last 8 hours, I have had the privilege of reading the testimony of so many dreamers. I still have more, but I'll either just submit. I thank all of you. I wanted to end. It's a privilege to read the eloquent statement of the Dreamers as they express their love of America, their commitment to a better future for our country and their own families' better future. It was a double honor to do so with the recommendations of the testimony that you all extended, presented, recommended these testimonials, and to have so many of you here in the course of the day, a real tribute to the respect that we have for our dreamers. So I accept your applause on behalf of them, because it was their story in their words, by and large, that I told. In addition to the Bible and the Catholic Conference of Bishops and Pope Francis and Pope Benedict, so many other religious groups that we have. But I thank all of you, and our basic request is honor the House of Representatives. Give us a chance to have it vote on the floor. The Republican leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, has gone forward with the budget proposal with the promise that he will give that opportunity to floor the Senate. The Senate will work its will. We'll see what they produce. And we'll work our will here and see what we produce. But it must be bipartisan, transparent, and unifying. And we think that there's been a lot of groundwork. In our case, the Hurd-Aguilar bill is one option. The Senate bill may be another option. There may be other options that are proposed. I'm just talking about the bipartisan ones. With that, though, again, I thank the staff of the House of Representatives, the various speakers of the House who have been up there with such courtesy. He smiled, he smiled. But most of all, let us thank and acknowledge the Dreamers for their courage, their optimism, their hope, their inspiration to make America more American. Thank you, my colleagues.
I don't think it'll take that.
With that, I yield back to Maxine Waters. So do I take my bag?
Okay. The House come to order.
Yes, thank you very much. Allow me to just say that we continue on this most important legislation, 1153, and we've had the opportunity to yield time to Leader Pelosi, and while she certainly came in to oppose this bill that we have before us, having yielded 1 minute to the leader is the most profound 1 minute probably in the history of this institution. That 1 minute that ended up 8 hours where Leader Pelosi talked about the plight of DACA and the Dreamers, and I'm very proud that in yielding that 1 minute, we had the opportunity to listen to Leader Pelosi deal with an issue and demand that we have an opportunity to have a real debate and a real discussion in the People's House. So I'm very pleased that we had that opportunity. And now, let me just say, I have no further requests for time, and I'm prepared to close. And so with that, I will yield myself the remainder of my time. Mr. Speaker, American consumers are under attack by the Trump administration and Republicans in Congress. Every day, we learn about either another effort to weaken guardrails protecting consumers from predatory actors, or another Trump appointee refusing to hold bad actors accountable. Trump's appointees at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Securities and Exchange Commission have basically stopped enforcing our nation's consumer and security laws. Mick Mulvaney, who Trump unlawfully appointed as acting director of the Consumer Bureau, is gutting
Please take your conversations from the floor.
What did he say?
Please proceed.
I thank you, but as you know, there's a lot of excitement here because of what took place in the last 8 hours, and so I don't feel interrupted at all. I just feel very, very pleased that we had the opportunity to have that speech by our leader. However, I'll just continue, and let me just get to the fact that, again, Milk Mulvaney, who Trump unlawfully appointed as acting director of the Consumer Bureau, is gutting the Consumer Bureau's Office of Fair Lending and Equal Opportunity, limiting the Consumer Bureau's ability to stop bad actors from discriminating against communities of color. News reports also suggest that Mulvaney has slowed down the Consumer Bureau's investigation of Wells Fargo, the ultimate example of a recidivist megabank. Wells Fargo has publicly admitted to ripping off millions of Americans with fraudulent checking accounts, credit cards, forced place auto insurance, and much, much more. But the Trump administration has a partner in its efforts to undermine consumer protections. House Republicans have been in lockstep with the president when it comes to rolling back consumer protections. Take the Consumer Bureau's rule on forced arbitration. Wall Street lobbied hard against this rule, and instead of putting consumers first, House Republicans passed a Congressional Review Act resolution to repeal a rule that would have helped consumers who have been wronged by the big banks to join together to hold them accountable. But that's just one example of how House Republicans have tried to undermine consumer laws. For years now, they've tried to cut the funding of the Consumer Bureau or to change its structure. And having failed in those attempts, they now have their inside man, Mick Mulvaney, who is working to destroy the Bureau from within. We shouldn't be surprised, since the chairman of the Financial Services Committee has said he wants to, quote, financially terminate and well, end quote, the Consumer Bureau. The bill before us today should be viewed as one part of this long line of attempts by my colleagues on the opposite side of the aisle to undermine a fundamental consumer protection. Home buyers should not be gouged or swindled just because they want to own a home. H.R. 1153 would legitimize predatory kickbacks through affiliated firms. Mega banks, including bad actors like Wells Fargo and other lenders, would be incentivized to steer their borrowers into more costly products simply because they can. H.R. 1153 is a bad bill that will only line the pockets of Wall Street with the hard-earned savings of Main Street. But don't just take my word for it. Civil rights groups and consumer advocates all agree that this is bad for America. So, despite all of the excitement that we've had here on the floor today with Leader Pelosi and the message that she brought to this Congress, I want all of our members to simply reject President Trump's and House Republicans' attack on consumers, vote no on H.R. 1153, and support Leader Pelosi in calling for a debate in this House on the issue dealing with DACA and the Dreamers. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized. 2.5 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself the balance of the time. Mr. Speaker, we could not be more highly honored that the minority leader would take such an interest in H.R. 1533, the Mortgage Choice Act. I am reminded that there are members who come to this great chamber to make speeches, and there are those who come to make laws. When it comes to speeches, I would note that the Gettysburg Address came in at 2 minutes, and Americans may think it had greater eloquence. I would note that as the minority leader quoted the Bible Frequently throughout her speech, it reminds me of Isaiah 1:18, quote, "Come now, let us reason together, says the Lord." Yet President Trump stood right there in the State of the Union address with his hand out with an olive branch, extending an open hand to work with members of both parties on an immigration reform package. He offered a fair compromise. And instead, the minority leader slapped his hand and called it insulting, Mr. Speaker. She called it lame. She called it dangerous. This is not someone who has come to this chamber, the people's house, in order to make law. The president he didn't offer legalization, he offered a pathway to citizenship. He didn't offer this for 700,000, he offered it for 1.8 million, and he said, let's secure our borders and let's make sure that immigrants who come to this country come legally and come with their sleeves rolled up, coming to work and build America. There are those who want to solve a problem, and there are those who want to exacerbate a problem for the election. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, hardworking Americans need the opportunity to get mortgages to buy their part of the American dream. And everything that the ranking member said, she ought to share it with her own Democrats, because half of them on our committee support H.R. 1533, which is good for America, good for prospective home buyers, and I encourage all House members to adopt it, and I yield back the balance of my time.
All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 725, the previous question is ordered on the bill. The question is on engrossment and the third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to amend the Truth in Lending Act to improve upon the definitions provided for points and fees in connection with a mortgage transaction.
The question is on passage of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Recorded vote
Mr.
requested.
Mr. Speaker, on that I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the Chair declares the House in recess for a period less than 15 minutes.